And coming at you live from atop the Melbourne Football Club bandwagon, this is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour for this week. I'm Sergio Paradise and I'm joined by a bloke who's just spent the entire weekend trolling Jason Johannesson on social media. It's Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, it was a good weekend for footy for us, but not for everyone.
Not for everyone, but I certainly will take it, the defeat of the Bulldogs on Sunday. I was actually a bit in shock after that game. I just wasn't quite sure how to handle it.
No, success is something we're not used to.
Well, it's a foreign word.
I want to start off by thanking all our supporters, people who've become supporters of the podcast and my writing and our live shows and all of those things. You can become a supporter at titusoreilly.com. There's a supporter section there, and you can sign up either annually or monthly, and that helps us do all this stuff. Last week we just had one. I've actually been annoyingly, for the second time this winter, crook as a dog.
Yeah. And you need to cut down on your drinking.
I'm not normally someone who gets sick, and then this year I've had twice lost my voice.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not good.
And the doctor says with completely different just viruses, nothing even particularly exciting.
Right.
So sorry about that, everyone. That was Steve was willing to do it, but it was my voice that had let us down. It's like having a dodgy Sergio. So it was a bit like a hammy going. I'm the Daniel Wells of podcasting.
So you got the dodgy calf that keeps coming back.
Yeah, I do.
Right. But it was a hell of a weekend, Melbourne winning like that.
Well, the whole weekend was...
Yeah, I mean, it was games everywhere that you couldn't predict or what was going on.
The Thursday night game...
I can't even remember that far back. Who played?
That was the Geelong Eagles one.
Oh, that's right.
That was okay. It wasn't that exciting. Geelong did that thing they do where they don't really play for the first half and then suddenly try and cram it all in and make it up in the last half. The Dangerfield was the only one.
Yeah, it was
any
fantastic.
Good. And then how Selwood didn't get... I know there's a bit of controversy about this, but Selwood elbowed a guy in the back of the head.
It was exactly the same as whoever did it to Jack Watts. No, it was Rance. Alex Rance did it to Jack Watts. So how Selwood
didn't... Rance's was a bit more... Watts had fallen, Rance had fallen,
and then
Rance gave it to him. But Selwood did it more like a Macho Man Randy Savage flying elbow. But the thing I don't get about it is if they're trying to get hitting and coward punches and all this is the message of not to do, elbowing someone in the back of the head when they're not looking, and he was just lucky. Nothing happened.
But
he was just
Joel Selwood. He could.
Yeah, it was the most courageous elbowing someone while they're not looking in the back of the head I've ever seen.
But he's a protected species. He really is. I mean, he could run onto the field next week with a homemade shiv in his sock and castrate his tagger, and it will be found.
That really went up a notch.
But this insufficient force.
This is the thing I find about it that's. I do find it just really bizarre. The match review panel not having consistency is kind of, not that surprising.
But he should have gone.
He should have at least got a week. I mean, it was just, I think because it was against Sam Mitchell, he got let off.
Yeah, possibly. Probably everyone on the match review panels caught one from Sam Mitchell over the years, so they thought he deserved one back.
Oh, the Buddy one for Buddy running through and collecting. I thought he should have got something. Yeah. I thought they were very weak over the weekend.
Again, it was Buddy,
Yeah, I thought they were really weak over the weekend on a bunch of... I thought Alex Rance was staging.
Oh, have you seen that footage of the soccer player the last few weeks? He's flopping around the pitch like a flathead in a bucket. Yeah. And Rance was almost getting to that stage. And,
it was just silly.
I hate that taking a dive stuff.
Yeah, there was a few of them over the weekend, actually.
They need to... Well, not come down hard on it, but just a lazy 1,500 next time you take a dive, it'll stop.
And then Friday night was the worst game of the season.
Of all time, possibly.
Which was North and St Kilda.
Oh.
Which...
It was
They said there's about 26,000 people there, which I just...
No.
I mean, I usually think... they must have all been off in the marquee getting drink and food like in China.
Yeah, like
it's the only thing I can
the
think
Shanghai
of.
crowd.
There was no, look, maybe there was, I don't know, but it didn't look like it.
And it had no atmosphere, or at home it certainly didn't seem to have any.
It seemed like the crowd wasn't into it,
No.
And then it looked like the players were barely into it. Like St Kilda were winning, but they didn't look amazing. Like people were saying, "Oh, St Kilda are back on track." I was like,
"Oh,
really?"
North were horrific.
North was so bad, and at one point, St Kilda kicked in the third quarter 1-7.
Yeah.
Almost like stopping to let North catch up, and North still couldn't get back in the game. Like that was how bad North were.
They were shocking. Geez,
North just did look like they didn't. They looked as disinterested as we were watching it.
How's Josh Kelly feeling? He's sitting up there in Penrith watching the telly, going, "Do I really want to go to either of these clubs next year? I might just stay here at the Giants."
You couldn't trade all to get Josh Kelly to come to North. You'd have to trade the entire team, and even then, I don't think you'd probably get it done.
Yeah, or at least the entire midfield plus Ben Brown or something.
Where do you think? I don't think I can't figure out where, unless Josh Kelly hates being in Sydney, desperately wants to get back to Melbourne.
What?
Why would you pick out of all the teams that you could pen to? And also the other thing is I don't get is if you're Josh Kelly and you're looking at all the different Melbourne teams and you go, Victorian clubs, and I'm not doing that thing of speculating that every interstate player is going to come home because then a lot of them don't.
Yeah, of course I know.
So, but even if he is, if you're desperate to come home, wouldn't you look at all the various clubs and decide, I could take slightly less, not a lot less, he's going to get a lot, and go somewhere that I really want to go, that I think's going somewhere. Yeah. And that's where that Friday night game was like, you look
Didn't
at
do
that.
him any favours. And again, you look at the Josh Kelly thing, it's not just where he'll go to prefer to play. When you're 20 years old or 21 years old, you're getting paid $800,000 a year or $900 a year. Is there much difference? Do you really care?
Well, I think you'd care, except if the difference between that 100,000 is winning a premiership, or like having a chance of winning a premiership or not, then you start to, because if you're a footballer, winning a premiership is sort of the.
But that's why wouldn't he stay at the Giants? They've got more chance of winning a flag the next couple of years than North or St Kilda.
Well, almost anyone.
Or Richmond or Carlton or Melbourne or
that's
pretty much anyone.
But anyway, that was a terrible. I had to fight sleep to stay up and watch that.
It was a shocker.
It was so boring. I couldn't even really make fun of it.
Yeah. I got to the end of the game, the siren went, and I sat there and I thought, why did I watch this?
You sat there
Why did I watch this game? It just...
Because you had nothing else to do.
I'll never get back.
You could have read a book.
Oh, I could have watched House of Cards. Could have watched a Norm Macdonald comedy special.
It was terrible. So and then we got on to the weekend. Now, some of the ones on the weekend, one we should just mention quickly is... very quickly, because it's positive news about Carlton. But Carlton won.
They beat the Gold Coast, yeah.
Gold Coast once again proving that just when you think they're coming good, they remind you that they're rubbish.
Yeah. And even Rodney Eade after the game, his first comment was, well, that wasn't much good, was it?
Oh, he said it like he wasn't involved in the whole execution of it.
He said it like a commentator. He said it like you and I going, I'm glad I wasted a bit of time.
I think I was saying this in the column on Monday that, he said it like he had nothing involved, and soon he won't have anything involved with him. So maybe he's just getting ready.
He's only got another 10 weeks.
Yeah, he's like someone who's already quit.
Yeah.
You know, when you've quit and you've got 2 weeks left at work, and you're so palpable you just couldn't give a rat's.
You just swan around the office doing nothing.
And people are like,
making coffee.
You're in a meeting and people are talking really earnestly about something, and they go, what do you think? And you're like, whatever. I don't care. So he looks like that a bit. Carlton, of course. I don't think you can. Carlton are unbeatable because they've got Liam Jones. So basically, you cannot score against them now.
Is that the greatest comeback of all time?
I think what people like about the Liam Jones story, it is that thing of someone who is not just seen as a completely rubbish player that shouldn't even be in the AFL.
Yeah.
And then to come back and reinvent yourself. And look, it's only gone on now for about 6 weeks. So whether it continues.
But that's enough to keep him there for the season, probably get another contract.
Yeah, but also, if he keeps playing like he plays, it is a great. People do like it when, as much as we like to mock the people that
It's a feel-good
Oh,
story.
it is a feel-good story, you know.
Yeah, I don't
and
like
credit to
feel-good
him.
stories.
It does make you think how many players get played out of position, though.
Or how many players, and I tell you the people who answer this best, AFL coaches and former AFL coaches, the number of players who, quote, should have made it
Yeah.
or could have made it, you know, whether it's lack of application on their behalf, the
Yeah.
fact that there were 4 blokes ahead of them on the list, you know, who were superstars, or for whatever reason, there's always guys, and there's plenty of blokes playing local footy or, you know, VFL footy,
Yeah.
who in the right circumstance, in the right club with all the stars aligning, could make it. And Jones is one of those few who could have been gone by the wayside, but the stars have aligned. And to be fair, he's made the most of his opportunity. So, you know, I guess it is a good feel-good story.
It seems like it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because he always was an expert in not scoring, and now he's just doing it in the right way.
Just doing it down the other end of the ground.
Yeah, he knows how to make sure you don't score. The other one that was absolutely amazing, and I watched the whole of it with my mouth just agape, because Richmond against the Swans. Now, Richmond got out. I'd tipped Richmond, which is because I just didn't fully believe in the Swans, you know. But I even wrote when I tipped them that, like, I knew I've got a lot of trust issues with Richmond, and I've never been.
And you're not even a supporter.
I know, and I'm not a true believer in them at all.
No.
And I don't think they've turned the corner this year as much as everyone. I think they're slightly better than last year.
I think they're a better side, but yeah.
But the idea that and the thing is, you were watching it and they got out to that start. I was feeling a bit of smugness that I'd got that one right, because I was thinking, oh, yeah, well, the Swans could, you know, people keep talking the Swans are back, and are they really? And then about halfway through that second quarter, I thought, Swans have levelled this off now. I mean, they're still down by 25 points, but they're now at least even with them around the contest.
Distance,
and I looked at it and went, there's still 2.5 quarters to go.
Yeah.
This is on. This is like not.
Oh.
But I kept expecting Richmond just to kick a couple and end it
And steady, yeah.
And then it
like
just,
good sides do.
Yeah,
you know?
and then it just kept. It was just, and I think some of the Richmond fans on Twitter, which is a great real-time feedback of panic, they were starting to go, "This is on. We're in trouble."
Yeah, we're in trouble.
And this was like in before half time.
As soon as it starts getting close, yeah.
And then it just. So it went from, well, this is interesting, Richmond are actually dominating the Swans, and then to suddenly like, oh, this is, and then it started to become, it can't happen again. And then it's like, well, of course it can happen again.
And it did. Well, I was in the car and got out of the car at that point when Richmond were 36 points in front.
Yeah. And
then I went and had to do something, and then I checked my phone a bit later, and I obviously yelled out, I've gone, the Tigers have lost by 9 points.
Yeah.
Really? And then, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course they did.
There is a thing here where Hardwick was on the couch last night.
Right.
And being interviewed. He started really strong in the interview and then fell away late. But he just...
He was overrun late
by the interviewers. He just talks the same stuff all the time about, it's a learning process. If this is a learning process, you have some of the slowest learners in the history of time. This is remedial class.
Yeah, this is kids who've repeated grade 4.
Yeah, and they're 24.
Yeah.
These are the kids that you just go, maybe a trade is for you.
Yes, it's a pity they've shut down
all the
TAFEs, because that's where you belong.
Well, you're actually not even as bright as the guys at the TAFE, to be honest, because they at least have a practical mind.
Yeah.
You don't have anything.
Melbourne Uni Law School, just forget it.
Yeah, so they seem to not learn from this all the time, and it's happening too often for it. It's happening too often for there not to be something there.
Yeah.
I just don't believe this thing where he says, they just any club now, and the problem is it's a bit of a vicious circle that they're stuck in, because not only do they have doubts when it gets close, but their opponents think they're a chance.
Yeah.
So if you're within 4 goals with
the Tigers,
10 minutes to go, at any point in that
you're
last
still
quarter,
a chance.
They don't give up. Like, they don't go...
Yeah.
Where there was, if you're playing inside that's ruthless or something, people start to go, maybe we're done here.
A couple of junk time goals, maybe, but that's it.
But the teams don't give up. They go harder. They suddenly start to live.
This is why they could be in trouble against Carlton this week, because Carlton, as much as we don't like to give them any credit for anything.
Well, I just don't want them to be good.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got to say Bolton's got them playing with heart and passion and the whole thing. So if they're half a sniff against Richmond this week, they'll think they're home. And Richmond could well fold again.
Oh, yeah.
Richmond need to be 12 goals in front at three-quarter time to be safe, and I can't see that happening.
Well, that's the thing about Carlton and whether they can keep it up being a young side, but Bolton's got them playing a game plan and a style that's within their abilities.
Yeah,
so
that's a fair point.
A lot of coaches, when they sort of have got a team, and I remember Neil doing this.
Yeah.
And it was back in the days, it was before Hawthorn were as much of the ascendancy. It was when Geelong were big and they used to do the running off halfback. So he's like, we've got to build a team that can do what Geelong do. And I remember a few articles being written about, if you look, they're doing it. But it was just patently obviously they didn't have the players that could do that sort of. And it's like when a lot of people tried to copy the Hawthorn games plan, which revolved around very accurate kicking.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
That's when they had 8 left footers in the side.
Yeah, and but it was like they just didn't miss targets and they would open up the field.
Dissect the field.
Yeah, and that was their sort of whole thing. And then so other clubs would try and mimic that, but they were all a bunch of spuds. They couldn't
kick.
And so Bolton's looked at this and he's got a defence that is just... His defence is pretty good.
Yeah.
He's got some really good players down there. So that's what they build it around. They lock it around. They're playing as a team. They're not trying to be, the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
They're not trying to do fancy
all
stuff.
The tricks. Yeah.
They're just like, we won't give you anything as a side. You have to earn everything against us. And therefore, unless you play really well, which is what happened against the Suns, we're going to be a pain all day.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how often that works in the AFL,
Just a good, honest footy team,
yeah,
really.
Only the very best sides can beat a team that's giving giving them anything, and they take it instead. Yeah. And that's where I reckon the Suns have come up. The Giants, have come up short a lot in that they'll only take what you give them.
Yeah.
And they've had some losses, and if it's not going their way, they haven't shown their ability to fight through that.
To get through and bury sides.
Where you see sides like Hawthorn when they were great, they'd be not playing well, and the other side was really hot, and Hawthorn would just remain within sort of 4 goals of them at worst.
And
they were always in it.
Pinch it.
Yeah, they were always in it. They stayed with it.
Good. And Geelong were like that, but both sides also had that killer instinct. When they did get 8 goals in front, they suddenly wouldn't lose the plot and be suddenly 3 gols in front. Once they got 8 goals in front, then 5 minutes later they'd be 11 goals in front.
Yeah.
They're ruthless.
Then we get to Melbourne, of course, and straight away JD wrote in a question to you and I on the back of the Melbourne win. Still drunk?
Short question.
Short answer?
Yeah. Well, no, not now, but 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I was too crook to really drink, but God, I was happy. Can you believe it? Can you believe it happened? I mean, I'm still a bit...
Well, here's your classic pessimistic Melbourne supporters, right?
Well, I like to think accurate, realists.
Like all realistic Melbourne supporters. My wife's taken the dog out for a walk, right, late in the day. And she's been out for a fair while. She walks back in. It's halfway through the last quarter and she sees me and my son watching the game. Yeah. She goes, this is going to be a fantastic win for the Demons. And we've both turned her and gone, not yet, it's not. She goes, you pathetic Melbourne supporters, you're 50 points in front with 10 minutes to go. Of course you're going to win. We were just in shock. The entire... Up until half-time, I thought, the Bulldogs, they're going to switch on at some point.
Yeah.
They're going to come. They're going to go. They're going to come. And then halfway through the third quarter, I think it was the point, I can't remember who went for the mark in the forward pocket, but Nathan Jones ran about 50 metres and punched it out of his hands, out of bounds. I thought, nah, we're not going to drop this today. The Bulldogs haven't got it. Easton Wood was fumbling like an Oz kicker.
This is the thing I found most surprising about that game is I thought Melbourne, it was their best performance of the year. They played 4 very solid quarters.
Yeah.
But the thing that amazed me even more, which I've been a bit surprised about all this talk in the media this week already about how Melbourne could pinch a flag this year.
Yeah.
I'm like, hang on.
Could go all the way.
Hang on.
Yeah, settle.
Like, I know last year the Bulldogs did it, and that's kind of...
It ain't going to happen every year,
And
folks.
Melbourne, could they? Maybe. But, like, they've done... That's their only 4-quarter performance, I would argue, all year.
Yeah.
So, like, to do that... And they're doing okay, but part of the benefit has been... no teams doing they're not one or two teams that are just blowing everyone away all the time. So, yes, they could go all right, but I mean, let's calm down a little bit. They're likely to probably lose the next 2.
Yeah, that's right. We're
going over to West Coast on 6-day break, and then they're who's the other one? They've got
Sydney at the MCG.
So
Friday
you
night.
kind of look at that and go, they're not easy wins.
No.
So you look at that, but it was kind of amazing. But the thing that amazed me most out of this, rather than Melbourne, is just how the Bulldogs really were not in it in any way.
No.
For the whole game.
No, not
they weren't even close.
Not even the fights. The first half pushing and shoving.
Yeah.
Jake Stringer was all over the joint. He was angry all day but couldn't get near the footy.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not been a big rap for Jake Melksham this year, but he did a good job on Stringer. On Johannesson.
But Melksham's been better the last few weeks because he's just played on someone.
Yeah, as a tagger, forget about him being a creative halfback or a midfielder. Just give him a run with role, and he gets the job done pretty well.
Yeah. But I just was surprised at the Bulldogs. I was looking at them going, they are just a team that were they look like they had the next generation of superstars everywhere, and now they've got a bunch of those second-tier players that were looking amazing. They've just gone back to being
second-tier players.
Average, Bond's still good, but when the rest are not performing...
Or you could see it on Sunday, when they cut back to the coaches in the box. Every time they cut to Luke Beveridge, he wasn't angry or throwing stuff. He just looked puzzled.
Yeah.
He's just...
He's like every Bulldog supporter.
What's going on? It was like I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about this.
I can see why he's so big on... he did a lot of talking about how they are not suffering from premiership hangover.
Mm.
And I thought, why is he so big on impressing that that's not the reason for their problem? And then I realised, well, their last premiership hangover lasted 62 years. Which is a long time to have a hangover. So, Melbourne's premiership hangover has lasted pretty long itself.
Pretty long.
As in 64.
50 years.
So Nick Mason wrote in, these are some of the questions we got on the round in general. Which stage of grief are Richmond's fans moving through? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, or acceptance? Are they able to move through each stage quicker than regular people through sheer amount of practice?
This is almost a serious question.
Well, I don't know. There was some great footage after the game of a Richmond supporter just staring at the field.
Yeah.
He was in the stands and
Blankly.
he was just staring at the field. And it was like the horror in his eyes.
Yeah.
But he looked like a man that had seen things in life, Serge.
He'd seen it all.
Yeah, they sometimes in a war movie, there'll be the man just looking over the battlefield with the dead lying everywhere and just can't unsee and a haunted look. And this guy had that look and he wasn't acting. He didn't realise the camera was on him and he was just staring. It was just like a full minute, which is a long time on television.
The 1,000-yard stare, they used to call it.
He was just looking out there I've seen things.
Yeah.
You don't know, man. You weren't there. And I just felt for him because I was like, I mean... Melbourne have done another thing over the years, which is they just give you no hope.
Yeah.
It's just they just defeat you through their...
That's why I reckon
they're never...
it's worse being a Richmond supporter.
Richmond have got it nailed, this build you up, crush you, start to build you up again. And always looking about, they're on the cusp of it all coming... and death turning. They always look on the cusp.
And that's the thing about Richmond supporters too, is that every time the team starts to turn again, they start believing again. At no stage do they ever run out of belief. And you've got to admire them for that.
I've said the most renewable resource in the world is a Richmond's fans' hope.
Yes.
You keep thinking, they're a weird combination too, and I've chatted to them of both optimism, while sure it's going to go bad, which should be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it's optimism.
But somehow it's like this physical...
stroke fatalism.
Yeah, like physics can't explain yet. We don't have the deep knowledge of how Richmond fans manage to... You know, they say they don't understand how a bumblebee actually flies?
Yes.
You know, they haven't actually worked out... We can't understand the physics of... They should, on paper, it shouldn't work a bumblebee, right? And I think Richmond fans are the same. You shouldn't be that optimistic.
That's where the black and yellow comes from.
The bumblebee. That's right. Someone wrote in on our show as a question a while ago, and I think they won the T-shirt, which I am dispatching out to people this week. Some of the T-shirts for questions people sent in saying the Richmond theme song should be changed to Johnny Cash's Hurt.
Yeah, that's right. That was
and I saw someone on YouTube, and I don't know if they got this from our listeners' question or our listeners got them from this had already been done, but someone has actually put Hurt to a bunch of Richmond montage.
Did it work? Did it fit? I'll have to look at it this afternoon.
It's amazing. So someone sent me the link to it. It was great. So I don't know
myself
today. So Corey Wickett wrote in, I'm about to down 3 bottles of tequila in half an hour. Will my hangover be half or only a quarter as bad as the Bulldogs at the moment?
Ooh, 3 bottles of your good Mexican in half an hour.
Only 3? I bet.
Corey, it's going to be worse than a hangover, pal.
It was nice knowing you, Corey. Yeah, thanks for writing in.
Yeah, we're not going to win a T-shirt because we're just assuming you're dead. Yeah.
We can drape it across the coffin. Who wouldn't want to be buried in a Titus and Sergio Variety T-shirt? Doug Barlow wrote in, is it true that Richmond enlisted the services of Greg Norman as motivational speaker prior to this season?
The thing I like about this is he's sledging two lots of people here. Richmond Footy Club and Greg Norman. Oh,
it's just... it is amazing. It's this much choking in the one...
Yeah.
You know, the one thing. Steve Wixon wrote in, if a footballer, this is in regards to the North Melbourne St Kilda game, if a footballer falls over at Etihad Stadium but he's playing against North Melbourne, does it make a sound?
The old tree in the forest, Steve. I always like a good existential question.
The one story that has run this week, and I would say this is the most ludicrous story that has got the most airtime since, remember the... Pendlebury Selwood argument.
Oh yeah.
On that final siren.
Yeah.
And then it all became
the refusal to shake hands. Kind of thing,
when he then ended up shaking hands, but there was like, what did they say?
Yeah.
And then they did a podcast about it, and still it went on for like a week.
Yeah.
And it was like the biggest nothing story. Right up there is Tom Bugg's Instagram post.
This is like you hear the phrase beat up, and we're as guilty of that as anyone, of beating up something.
Well, we're talking about it now, but
it was, God, it's a bit of fun. Was it a bit of fun?
It was so obvious taking the piss.
Of course
that was the thing about it. And then what I think actually made it worse in the end, not that I think it's bad, but what made it worse in people's minds is JJ played so badly.
Yeah.
That it seemed to almost have worked. Like it was like, right. You know...
It would have backfired enormously if Jay Anderson had played a ripper and Bug hadn't got a kick.
And they had won.
But the thing that I thought, because Jack Watts was in it, was obviously, you know...
Did Jack know?
No, I don't think so. Bug just took a selfie. See, my only problem with this whole thing was if I'm Simon Goodwin, I'd be saying, we're about to run out in the field... Get off your phone, will you? Why is he taking selfies?
Well, I think it was a few hours before.
Well, it may have been, but still,
it wasn't. I don't think it was a real big deal. But
somebody said to me yesterday that this could be part of Tom Bugg's sly and clever little campaign to make it really hard for him to get dropped because he's been in and out of the side a bit, but he's sort of becoming such a nuisance both on and off the field that they can't drop him.
Well, I mean, he's one of those players that you hate in opposition sides and quietly happy to have you in your side.
I'd be a lot happier if he was a bit more accurate in front of goal.
Oh,
he takes plenty of marks in the forward 50, but he misses too many shots.
Sean wrote in, what did opponents do to psych each other out before social media? Send an aggressive fax? Hang on, a fax is coming through. Oh, it's Tony Lockett. Says he's going to run through me.
There's a whole row of fax machines in the rooms next to the lockers, all with a number on it for each player.
I think that's a great idea. Moving on from the round, and thank God we're through the bye rounds just quietly.
Oh, isn't that boring?
I
did like your idea, your suggestion, though, that the AFL should have a spite round. because the Bulldogs Melbourne game, all the commentators kept saying, "Oh, it's a spiteful game."
Well, Richmond Swans was a spiteful game too, and
a spite round's got a nice ring to it.
Oh yeah, no, I reckon one round a year where there's no match review panel.
Yeah, well,
let it go.
That was this round.
Yeah, it was the one we just had basically. It was but the bye rounds, I just think are terrible the way they spread them out. I reckon have 1 week where you don't have a bye. You have one bye, 1 weekend where there's no AFL footy, and you put the focus on the state leagues or you put on an all-star game of the women's.
I could do.
Make it a charity fundraiser as well. Have it in prime time.
Yeah.
Do a big thing. Do a big
it's not
thing
a bad
around
idea.
it. And because they don't want to lose their momentum is why they don't want to just give up. But just have the one round where we all can, and then it's back to normal rather. And shorten the season a bit.
But then all the players will go to Noosa for the week and there'll be scandals.
You see, it's already working.
I'm already talking up the positives.
Yeah, have you got any negatives to the idea? Another thing that happened talking about AFL Women's is the applications have come in from all the various clubs that haven't currently got a...
And I've got to ask you, did you see the footage of Dyson Heppel presenting their application to Gil McLaughlin?
Yeah.
And they were two, beautifully crafted boxes that were black with the red sash on it and red ribbon. And it was just, it looked like a wedding gift.
And it was actually a bomb. They're not the best relationship. Anyway, 8 clubs who currently don't have AFL women's clubs or teams have put in bids for the competition to join in 2019. So this won't be next year, it'll be the year after. The AFL's received bids from Essendon, Geelong, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, North Melbourne, Richmond, St Kilda and West Coast. 2 teams haven't put in.
Who are the 2 teams?
Sydney Swans and Port Adelaide. They said in a statement...
Well, there's no women in Port Adelaide.
Well, oh, you're going to cough it when we go to Adelaide. It's going to be marvellous. Port Adelaide and Sydney Swans both said in a joint statement that they have not applied because they hate women. Don't think they should participate in sport at all.
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of honesty back in the game. I like to hear that.
No, they haven't. They've both said that... Sydney Swans have raised issues around their training and administrative facilities, which is why they're not ready at the moment to do it. And Port Adelaide, they didn't, but they did say they remain committed to promoting and developing women's football at a grass level in South Australia. Now, the thing is, whenever anyone says a business or a club or anything says they're committed to something, that means we're not doing anything about it.
But we like to talk about it.
But we want to appear like we're doing something. But to be fair, in some ways, I actually appreciate Port and Sydney saying we're not ready to do it yet.
Yeah.
Because it is an extra thing you got to do as a club. You got to have some of the infrastructure and stuff set in place. Now, some clubs lend themselves to that. Bulldogs and Melbourne had a long time commitment to it. Some of the others, like I think St Kilda, are a chance. That's in an area that has a massive amount of women playing already, so you could argue there's a thing there. So there are certain clubs that have the fit. A club like Hawthorn you'd think would have the money.
Yeah, they'd have the money. Geelong again would be probably a geographical thing.
Yeah, Geelong makes sense. So there's certain ones that you look at and go, well, they kind of make sense and they kind of add something to it.
I'll tell you the interesting thing too is that these 8 clubs that are now applying, I reckon more than half of them, when the original applications came in, had no interest whatsoever and thought, let's just wait and see. I reckon this might not work.
Well, you see, what the AFL did on selecting the first lot is they looked at the clubs, and you look at the clubs that got them.
Yeah.
they were clubs that they weren't the major clubs in the main, and they saw it as a way to give some funding for facilities and various things to the various clubs. Right. So that's why actually the AFL chose some of the ones that they're selecting. Obviously now with the success, everyone
wants to get on board.
So anyway, that should be good. So
when do they make it? Oh, it's not until 2019.
No, they'll come in now. 2 clubs will probably be. So they've received 8 bids. They've said at least 2 clubs are going to be successful, and they're going to weigh up whether they increase that to 4. So half of them possibly will get selected. So not every club will get in out of the 8. It could only be 2.
Right.
That depends a bit on how that, I reckon, next season goes and everything. So that's quite interesting, though. It's good to see it still growing because they had quite a big turnout for the just in the interest in women's sport keeps increasing. The netball grand final, Super Netball grand final was on.
That was massive.
And the Lightning won that, which is the Storm affiliate.
Yep.
So they won that, and that I was watching that on Saturday
I didn't see it, but I'm a big netball fan. I reckon it's a ripping game. Played at that highest level.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got to say, speaking of women's sport and treating women well, I'm looking forward to the next story.
Well, this is our old mate.
Great
friend of the show.
Yeah, great friend of the show. A close personal friend of mine.
So people who listen regularly would know Mike Tancred, who was the media director at the Australian Olympic Committee. He got... a lot came out about his supposed bullying, such as threatening to kill people
and bury them,
and all those sort of things,
and destroy their careers.
Yeah, but
that's not bullying.
Then the AOC appointed an independent review into this, and they found that it wasn't basically. They said it wasn't bullying because it wasn't sustained over a long enough period of time.
Yeah, so only a dozen times.
Yeah, which makes no sense.
There's
to
no
me.
pattern
there. Bullying, I didn't realise had to. You can get away with it once or twice, and then it's like, okay, I'll stop now.
Yeah.
It's like sort of,
there's obviously a certain number that you have to achieve.
It's a bit like when you're the man on the mark, the guy marks, and you hold on to him for a second.
Yeah.
And then the ump says, let him go. And if you keep holding, it's a 50.
It's 50.
But obviously you can let go at the right time. And with bullying, you can do that, So anyway, after him being basically cleared of bullying, but told he'd done some inappropriate... it was disreputable conduct was what it was what was told. It did not rise to the level of bullying.
Right.
Now, listen to this and tell me whether you think this. He's now come out this week. I don't know why he's come out and done this. Maybe we can speculate about that in a second.
Coatsy goes whack.
Tancred came out and admitted that he did threaten to damage the reputation of former AOC Chief Executive Fiona de Jong. And he said that, and he remains stood down from his positions. He has issued a formal apology to her. He said in December last year, so that's 2016, I rang Fiona about an internal matter at the AOC. During the course of our conversation, I spoke to Ms. de Jong in a intimidating manner and made threats to damage her and her reputation by publishing allegations about her. I acknowledge that my conduct was hurtful, inappropriate, and inconsistent with the values of the AOC.
What are the values of the AOC? Values of the AOC just come in a brown paper bag.
I would have thought it's very much consistent with the values of the AOC. It probably isn't consistent with the values of society, Mike, but out of the way, we're nitpicking, I guess. I also accept that I caused Ms. de Jong considerable distress. I wish to record that I've made an unqualified apology to her for my conduct and its impact upon her. So apparently what he did say in that conversation, he said, Fiona, withdraw that complaint. So afterwards when she actually complained about him, he also said, Fiona, withdraw that complaint or I will bury you.
Yeah, well, you can take that either way. It's a
all in good fun.
Mean it literally?
All locker room
talk. He didn't mean it literally. The thing I like about this is that old Tugger, he's since he's been stood down, he's on full pay, which, as it turns out, the amount of money he's been paid since he's been stood down is more than half the sports in the AOC get in funding each year.
Is that true?
It is true. Of let's say there's 46 sports. I don't know. It's around that number. what he's been paid since he's been stood down is more than what 24 of those sports get each year from the AOC in funding.
So what I don't get is, how do you keep your job? Even apologise. Like, good on him for apologising. I mean, in that he apologised once the investigation was on and he was trying to minimise
It was a bit
finding
of if anyone was offended by my comments. You know?
But it's also like, when an apology happens, is kind of a reasonable deal. Now, if you're apologising as part of a review into your behaviour that's trying to decide what your punishment should be,
yep.
and you're stood down and they're trying to find out basically whether to sack you or keep you on, and you then as part of that process issue an unreserved apology, which is very much throwing yourself on the mercy of the court, really.
Yes.
Does that apology mean that much? I mean, it's better than if you didn't make the apology at all, but it's not the same as, like, you know, one day at work you say something to someone that you shouldn't, or you speak harshly to someone, and then you ring them that night and go, look,
I was out of line today. Sorry about that.
I was out of line. I was having a bad day. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have never said it. That would mean a lot more, right? Now, he never apologised to her until this was a big investigation. Yeah. And they were just like, it's so patently just his attempt to minimise.
John Coates' sort of pit bull attack dog protector.
Oh, but how can they keep them on? I mean, it just, how after he's come out and said this, I mean, we already knew most of this, but now he's come out and even admitted.
Well, there's still more to come on this, apparently.
Well, yeah, there's more. He's being investigated for other things as well. So maybe they can't sack him yet because the process has to play out.
But the way things are going, you know,
if you're him,
it wouldn't surprise you if he's still, he'll be fine.
If you're him, anyway, amazing. I mean, it doesn't surprise you.
And if he does get sacked, he won't be able to get his job back at Channel 10 either, because they're not hiring at the minute.
No, well, he might be able to buy it if he's getting paid more than all the other sports combined. Another sport that's travelling beautifully well, and you and I have been keeping an eye on, is the Australian Rugby Union. They are today, as we speak, basically having an emergency general meeting of everyone. This is in response to, for those who haven't been following this closely, the ARU that is in terrible shape. The Wallabies lost to Scotland on the weekend in a game I flicked on and watched a fair bit of, and they were terrible.
They got flogged on Twitter for that too.
They were watching it. They were just the way. I mean, Scotland.
They're just no good.
Scotland. The Wallabies are traditionally better than Scotland, especially playing them in Australia. And on top of that, the British and Irish Lions are currently touring New Zealand. So the best Scottish players are over on that tour. So this is not even the best Scottish team.
This is the Scottish.
And they beat the Wallabies in Sydney.
Oh, that's how bad they're going.
So that's how bad that part's going. So when they talk about, on top of this, the thing that's brought us to today's emergency general meeting is the ARU announced that they were going to get rid of as part of an agreement with South Africa and New Zealand, they were going to get rid of one of the Super Rugby franchises. They've named it, so it won't be the Brumbies now in Canberra, so it's either going to be the Western Force or the Melbourne Rebels. Now, they said at the time when this all blew up that, and this is...
they were going to make a decision in
72 hours of which team it would be. That was 72 days ago.
He may have been misquoted on the hours and days.
Yeah, that's right. They should say, so that was 72 days ago.
But when he said 72 hours, that was taken out of context.
So instead of it taking 72 hours, it's been hanging around for 72 days. And so everyone knows one of the clubs is going to be gone, but they haven't said
Nobody's happy about this, especially the people involved at the two clubs. Yeah. And it makes the whole sport look a laughing stock.
So this emergency general meeting that's going to happen today, the CEO of this ARU, Bill Pulver, said he'd resign immediately from his position today if everyone in the room agrees he's not the right man for the job. In saying that, I imagine he knows that he's going to have some of the votes.
Yeah.
That's the only reason you ever offer to resign is if you either know no one's going to accept it or you want to actually resign. Yeah. But maybe he's just desperately hoping someone lets him off this.
Maybe he's sick of the whole damn thing.
Well, you would be. So that's kind of happening today. They're going to have that meeting. They also I saw that the Suns Carlton game had a bigger rating on TV, on Foxtel, than the Wallabies Scotland game.
Jeez, that's how bad they're going.
Think about that. There's the Wallabies who, like, 10
The
years ago
Australian
was
national
a
team.
national team playing Scotland, get beaten by a game involving Carlton and the Suns.
And the Suns, yeah. I mean, let's say 10 years ago, even a bit further back, even as a not much of a rugby fan that I am, you were perfectly well aware of the Wallabies and the
you
big
knew when
names,
they were playing.
John Eales and George Gregan and all these blokes.
Yeah.
And they won World Cups and they win the Bledisloe Cup. And you knew exactly when they were playing New Zealand, this is like Australia, England, Boxing Day test.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a fan, you knew it was on.
No, it
and
was
you
one of
always
those
took a bit of an
sporting-
interest.
Yeah.
But now nobody cares.
No.
And that's indicative of how the Super Rugby's going, and they reckon how it's going way down to the grassroots level.
That's right. So we'll be interested to see what comes out of that emergency meeting today. The other thing that came out, which you and I are incredibly disappointed, is the Shane Warne telly movie looks like it's been canned, like it won't be happening.
Channel 7, they've just announced, or last year in September they said it'll be one of the key new drama offerings for this year, possibly, 2018.
Yeah.
But it's been put back on the shelf. They hadn't reached casting stage. Do you think it's because they couldn't find anyone to play Warnie convincingly?
Well, I heard you were in the gun for it.
Not blonde enough. Blonde enough.
Warnie was dead against it.
My flipper goes all right, and my wrongin'. But Warnie didn't want to know about it.
No. What I'm finding interesting though, and I'm just googling it right now to so do you remember the other thing that happened is you remember he announced there's a few things with Warnie. I know he wasn't behind this TV deal, but a few things that have gone right. Remember he came out and announced that speaking tour with Mike he was doing it, and Nichols was going to interview him.
Yeah, and it was promoted by IMG or someone big.
Yeah, so he was going to do Warnie Uncut.
Yeah.
Apparently, and I the other day I was looking at this and was wondering what had happened with it. He said that he just cancelled it a week before the first show, saying that the ticket buyers will get a full refund. He explained that the 7-date live show was postponed due to issues with a major publishing house planning to release his autobiography. Now,
nothing to do with ticket sales?
I'm about to say, you've been around, Serge. What do you reckon the odds are that just didn't sell?
I'd say it did. It pretty much that's on the money. I mean, this is the only reason, like promoters and what have you, cancel. I mean, this isn't obviously U2 at Etihad Stadium.
Yeah. But
this is why they cancel performances, because it costs you far more to run a show with a 3/4 empty house than just to can the whole thing and blow your deposit or for your hire of the whole thing. And this just doesn't ring true, Yeah. The whole thing. And
so maybe people are getting a bit. The demand of Warnie's popularity is not one.
But see, I also think, I mean, Channel 7, they may have got a bit of cold feet because, the last couple of sort of big name sporting sort of biopics, they didn't do Brocky didn't do well. The Paul Hogan one, which is not a sporting one, that didn't rate well. The only one that's rated well recently was the Molly Meldrum one.
Didn't the How's That one not go that well either?
That didn't go that well. The Paper Wars or whatever it was called, about the women's magazines.
That one, the first, the Paper Wars in. The other one that was the one about Ida Buttrose and Cosby.
So maybe they're thinking that Australians have run out of people they want to watch. But then I was thinking about it after I read that they'd canned the movie. I thought it probably doesn't. The Warnie story doesn't lend itself to a big dramatic production. In that you look at his story. Okay, he played cricket. He had a magnificent career.
Few controversies.
Yeah, but minor. Finished up as the greatest bowler in history. And in a good drama, then there's the downfall or the and the comeback. But all he's done since then is sort of knock off every tart from London to Portsea.
You don't think it's
it's great going up for
a bogan to riches story?
Oh, it is.
My theory is that Warnie, they looked at telling his story and realised, gee, there's no way you're going to be able to put this in prime time. There's more nudity than Game of Thrones. The thing I thought was funny today.
Game of Thrones would be a good name for it. Shane Warne, Game of Thrones.
I'm just trying to find a picture I took the day. I tweeted this out earlier. It's on my Facebook too. Is I go to this cafe around the corner often when I'm writing or something, and they do this thing where they put quotes. They give you your coffee, and there's a little bit of paper with a quote on it each time. Okay. They're all different, and they're actually all funny quotes. It's not one of those dream big and believe in yourself. Of life, they're all funny quotes that
your boring friends put on Facebook.
Yeah, it's not a Facebook one. They always have funny ones, right? So it's kind of it kind of works because they're not stupid. They're not that cloyingly positive one. Like if you can dream it, do it.
Yeah,
it's not that.
Yeah.
So today the one I got, and they don't know me at all. Like I've been there a bit, but they don't know I'm follow sport or anything. So it was by random chance. They said they put a quote from Shane Warne.
Oh, okay.
On one of it, and it's one from the Jungle Show.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
This is what he said, and this is a legit quote from him. But I just love that this cafe put it on it. It said, "If we evolved from monkeys, then why haven't those ones evolved? Because I'm saying aliens. We started from aliens."
There you go. I'm telling you now, Channel 7, they've made the wrong decision all of a sudden.
Yeah,
after hearing that quote, there is a movie in Shane Warne.
So that's what's happened there. So that's quite good. So they're now, while Shane Warne might not be happening, another thing is happening.
Oh, I love this story.
Michael Phelps, as we know, the American swimmer, the most successful Olympian of all time.
23 gold medals, I think.
Who's counting at that point?
Oh, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like he's got a lot.
I love the photo of him with them all round his neck.
Yeah.
Must weigh a ton.
I know. He's so anyway, he's
But he is a drunk and a druggie.
Well, we can't talk.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying this as a criticism. It's just an observation.
Yeah, that's right. Let's not cast the first stone.
Glass houses and all that. Ooh. Pot, kettle, black.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, it's been announced that he will race on television a great white shark in July as part of Discovery Channel's Shark Week, which every week is Shark Week on the Discovery Channel.
Pretty much is, yeah. It's like the History Channel should be called the Hitler Channel.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is, and they haven't announced this yet, the Discovery Channel.
The format.
How's this going? Is it going to be in the same pool?
Well, this is where I think they don't. I think it's going to be like a computer simulation or something rubbish. Like it won't be
like when you run against Kathy Freeman at the Science Museum.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Science Museum. So it's it says here that the press release from the Discovery Channel promised that the world's most decorated athlete takes on the ocean's most efficient predator. Now, the thing here is, I was reading this. The American has a top speed. So Phelps top speed swimming.
Yeah.
Is 6 miles per hour
in the water.
Right? So that's how fast they can go. A great white can reach 25 miles per hour.
Right.
So I was reading this quote about, they went and interviewed on something I was looking online, a marine biologist, and said, "What do you
don't want to bring experts into it?
What do you think of this?" And they were like, "Well, how's it going to happen, the race?" Yeah. And they said, they said to them, "Is this a doc?" She was a doctor from somewhere in California, and they said, "How are you going to
do the race?"
She said, "How are they going to do those?" And said, "Well, I haven't really worked that out yet." She's like, "All right." She's going, "Well, it's ridiculous because it's just a non-starter. Like there's just." A shark has over billions of years been evolved to operate in water, and we haven't. So can you imagine? It's like where it's stupid is. Can you imagine if someone said, "We're going to race 2 cars. One is a 1986 Laser Gear, and the other is a Ferrari." Yeah. How exciting!
Yeah, that's going to be good, isn't it?
The only way this is interesting is if, to your point, they race. And they are in the same pool, and there is no nets.
It'll be a handicap race. It'll be like the stall gift. Phelps he'll be racing off 24 metres in a 25-metre pool.
And the difference is, if he doesn't win, he gets eaten.
Yeah, that's pay-per-view. I would watch that.
Yeah.
Do you reckon if it turns into a proper race, will the shark be as good on the turns.
Yeah, that's right. That's at the
turning
shark.
at each end of the pool.
Well, I'd like to...
Maybe Phelps could get his mate Grant Hackett to nipple cripple the shark before he gets out of the blocks.
You know what? You'd get Grant to slip the shark a still knocks before the race. It's the only way Phelps is going to have a chance.
Will they both have to go off the blocks?
Yeah, that's the one thing that might actually... There are some... I think sometimes when you and I are talking that we come up with some of the stupidest ideas ever, and then we keep being topped by reputable organisations. So well done, Discovery Channel. So anyway, that'll be some nonsense. It'll be like they'll do a computer simulation or something. It'll be completely pointless. Anyway, let's get into some listeners' questions. Actually, one thing that just does remind me is this week, not really a sport, but came out that a matador got gored to death by a bull.
I watched the video. It was fantastic.
Did you? Because he tripped over his cape.
There you go.
I mean, we've all tripped over things, so we all know, like, being an uncoordinated matador, not a good career move.
No, it's not. And look, we've all, I'm a big wearer of capes, as you know, but I rarely wear one when I'm fighting a 2,000-pound animal.
That's right.
But if you did see the footage, the bull won that fight. And
do you know what? The lack of sympathy for the bloke is on social media.
Yeah, it's been massive.
Is just palpable. Like people, there is not one like going. I haven't even seen one person go, "Look, I'm not for bullfighting, but it's sad that someone died." It's the complete opposite.
Everyone.
They're like,
well, Ricky Gervais was one of the first ones, and he described the bullfighter with a word that I certainly cannot use on this podcast. That's the sort of bloke he was. And just the other thing before we get to the listeners' questions, did you hear? After the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship just this last week, all the players went to a bar that night together. Yeah. No officials, no coaches, just a players get together and a celebration. Bar bill at the end?
Oh, I did read this, but it was something insane on champagne.
$430,000 which is more than half a million.
And a lot of it was on champagne and stuff, wasn't it?
What do they call those giant bottles of champagne?
The magnums.
Yeah, bigger than that, the Jeroboams or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And it was old stuff, and there were, $350 bottles of vodka, $430,000 in one night, which is, for an NRL player, that's just a night on the coke. Normally. But, geez, that's a fair night out.
It was funny. I was watching AFL 360 last week just after that, and they spent a good, 10 minutes talking about the NBA finals.
Yeah.
And what it meant for LeBron's legacy. And I'm like, is this AFL 360 or NBA 360? Yeah. It was one of the rare moments that Robbo wasn't apologising for something, which was basically all last week.
And Prue probably knows more about basketball than footy.
Listeners' questions. Wasman wrote in, why does our government spend so much time on budgets when they should be focusing on eliminating bye weeks from the AFL schedule? I've long said the government have its priorities wrong.
Yeah, they should get involved. Especially because Malcolm Turnbull's so big on the AFL. Just put it in his hands. He'll sort that
out. Steve Pullen wrote, when was the last time you... Oh, this was in response to you and I talking about the calls at Perth.
Oh, the new stadium.
Stadium at Perth that they're going to have only... they're going to only have... light beer or mid-strength beer in the outer, basically, but and potentially also in the corporate boxes.
Yeah.
Steve Pullen wrote in, when was the last time you two watched footy outside the MCC or a corporate box? Well, I think you know the answer, Steve, but let's keep going ahead. Heavy beer is available at all games. #Elitist Podcast.
I like that hashtag.
Yeah, I think he meant it maybe slightly insulting, but we take that as a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pump that one up.
I'm not sure Steve is right, though, because
he might be right, but available at all day games.
Well, plenty of day games I've been to, and maybe I've just been in but I remember quite a few times being at Etihad in the outer and only them serving Carlton mid-strength.
Well, I'm the same. Look.
So I'm happy to be proven wrong, and it'd be great news if we are wrong, but I'm a bit on your side. I'm not sure that you can always buy heavy beer.
When I've been to the MCG and
people will let us know on
and not sit in the MCC, but I have sat in the outer and watched the cricket and the footy occasionally. And I reckon every time I've gone to buy a beer, because at least in the outer you can take it back to your seat.
Well, he's saying day games, so maybe it's night games.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be corrected on this, Steve, if you're right and I'm wrong. But I just know a few times when I've been at various games, both AFL and A-League, having to drink terrible mid-strength beer. So I'd be happy if I was wrong. Maybe I was just at the wrong bar, which is actually my new biography. At the wrong bar.
At the wrong bar.
Rhombus Isotope.
He's been quiet lately, Rhombus.
Not really.
Well, he hasn't actually. He bombards us with questions every week, and we try to ignore him.
With Darren Burgess's decision to go work for Arsenal, this is Port Adelaide's high-performance coach that everyone has talked up like nothing else because he came from Liverpool before this.
Right.
And now Arsenal in the Premier League have picked him up. So he's obviously got a great reputation. But and hasn't he been huge? Haven't Port Adelaide been great over the last 4 years? But Rhombus says, was Darren Burgess' decision to go work for Arsenal primarily to avoid ever meeting David Koch again?
Quite possibly. That's a question, Rhombus, we can't answer directly. But
probably true.
It's probably true. Hey, and did you read on that? Apparently there was, it's a bit like when soccer players change clubs, there was like a transfer fee from Arsenal to Port.
I don't think they got any money. I think they got he gets
a third round draft pick.
Yeah, they get a great soccer player. And everyone goes, he's got a soccer background. No, I think they get to share some sports science knowledge between each other, which basically to me amounts to not a lot.
Yeah, no. But Kochi's hoping he can get Arsenal to play in Shanghai next year as part of the deal.
Anyway, now, next question from Darren Flash Nicole. Great name. With Serge giving us his thoughts on all the places in Australia he's hated visiting, should us Tasmanians be A, thankful we've not rated a mention, B, feel slighted that we've not rated a mention yet, or C, get on the front foot, invite Serge to visit and give him the choice from one of tour guides, Punter, Richo, Booney, or Jackie Landy. P.S. The visit would, of course, be subject to our usual immigration, passport and character checks.
Oh, that means I won't be going to Tassie anytime soon.
Now, in good news for Darren, I think you have bagged Tasmania before.
Have I?
I think Darren needs to go back and listen to every single podcast.
Yeah, I'm probably giving it a whack at some point.
I thought you said you didn't mind Tasmania.
Well, I like Tasmania as a theory. But I've never really been there. The only time
You've never been to Tasmania?
The only time I've been to Tasmania, well, I've been to Flinders Island, which is sort of halfway, you know. But
what stopped you going any further?
Oh, because that was as far as I needed to go. But the only time I've actually been to the Tasmanian mainland as such is with a bunch of mates years ago. We flew from Essendon Airport in a light plane straight to Launceston, and then into the casino all Saturday night, then back on a plane at dawn the next morning drunk and a bit lighter in the pocket region. So it would be fair to say I've seen nothing of Tassie, but I know people who swear by it. It sounds a bit cold for me.
We'll have to add that to the list of places to go, I guess. Yeah. Ross Green, who has written in, who has the worst outlook?
Right.
A, Hawthorn.
Yeah.
B, Freo.
Yeah.
C, Brisbane. D, North.
Ooh, tough.
Or E, Channel 10. I think...
what do you reckon, Channel 10? Or
I'll feel for Channel 10.
Could you see Brisbane coming good with a consortium between, I don't know, Bruce Gordon and Lachlan Murdoch? Do you reckon they would pump up to save the Lions?
Do you think the thing about watching Channel 10 being in enormous trouble, but then also everyone would have noticed, especially with the Fairfax papers, so the Age especially I've noticed, and I'm sure it's happening with Sydney Morning Herald too, or it is, but my Twitter feed is just Age journalists announcing they're leaving.
Oh, I know.
And it is very sad, like, you know, because it does make me wonder where are you going to get people writing? Like, one of the reasons we launched our own, for the podcast and for my writing on the website, the supporters we have who pay us, is I kind of had the view that I don't know if I was doing some writing for the Herald Sun. They were always completely fine with me, but I was like, you know, what's the future of these organisations? Like, unless you support directly the people you want to listen to, and are willing to pay a bit, which is why our supporters are great, because they actually will support us. These places are just going under at a rate of knots, and then people complain about the level of quality of the journalism, or the stuff they hear is very samey and all that, and I get that and I agree. That's why we try to do something a bit different, but I do worry about where it's all going to go.
Well, yeah, it'll be a shame to see the end of the papers, the Age and the Sydney Morning Herald, but. Yeah,
But don't you feel like they've almost already sort of happened?
They've already just about gone.
The Age and the Herald Sun, and look, they've become, I think, and I'm hardly original in this thinking, is the Age and the Herald Sun have, in trying to stay relevant, have both gone so left and right.
Yeah.
You know, to meet individuals' views. That you kind of go, well, they're not even like, I feel like we've already lost those. When people hark on about how great the papers, you know, and it'd be a shame to lose the papers, and they're still very good journalists, individual journalists and columnists around. But when you look at it, you know, we've already kind of lost what were the ones that you pulled out in the 90s and read in great detail. Whether it's sport or other things, they're kind of already
Saturday
gone.
Age used to weigh about 3 kilos.
Yeah. And you met all that, but you know, and so I reckon the best voices in AFL media and in you know, and in media generally, like a lot of the people who are kind of just doing their own thing because they're actually free of the control. But how you get them to be able to do it on an ongoing basis
and reach a large number of people, that's the other difficulty.
So anyway, that's kind of interesting.
Our editorial.
That's right. Michael Barbaro wrote in, do you think I should hire an electrician who has no eyebrows?
That's just a terrific gag, Michael. I wouldn't personally.
Do you know, I hope that, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure Michael's come up with, it's a very good question and a clever question. So as a joke, that's a great question. But there's a part of me that hopes that it's actually a true question.
Yeah.
I know it's not, but it would be great if Michael was currently sitting at home waiting for the answer because a bloke had come round to do a quote.
He's got no eyebrows. It's just like a builder. You know, he's got smashed up left hand. He goes, he's not handling that hammer too well. You know? Can we give Michael a T-shirt?
Oh, yes, of course you can.
That is a cracker.
Oh, well done, Michael. Everyone else, there was some, actually, I've got to say the quality of
questions was pretty good
this week was top notch. So I especially like that one. Well, thank you, everyone. We are definitely doing one on Thursday, just so you know. So the fact we had a couple of weeks where we were just doing one, that was mainly because of we had a public holiday in the middle of that, but then also me being crook. So I do apologise, but we are committed.
We are committed.
We are committed
to the cause.
To doing 2 weeks. So we'll be back on Thursday, and let's hope that we're getting back into the proper rounds of no buys. That
we'll look forward to that.
Have plenty to talk about. So just once again, Michael's won the T-shirt, just so we don't forget.
Yeah, Michael Barbaro.
Thanks again to our supporters. And if people can go on and rate us or leave a comment on iTunes, that helps us get the word out for the podcast.
Absolutely.
And we really appreciate it. So we'll see you on Thursday.